impacted on or affected negatively, but they have nowhere to place their concerns. They suffer quietly, alone. And I have seen this, like today as we talk, I can talk of several effects, negative effects that have really affected, impacted on our young people. For instance, to begin with, since the pandemic was announced and declared an epidemic in Uganda, the children have been at home. They don't go to school, and that has a lot to talk about. And the consequences of that are several. First of all, these children are at home, they have no activity, they have no program. It was so abrupt, they never prepared for it. The parents are overwhelmed. And the parents, of course, cannot remain at home. After the lockdown, most of the parents had to go out to look for funds, for money to cater for these children at home and the families, as they have always done. But leaving them alone in their homes without anybody has created a big gap. And that's why in Uganda in particular, we have registered high levels of teenage pregnancies. Adolescent girls are becoming pregnant. Child marriages have increased because these children are engaging in sex at this tender age. And then we have drugs and substance abuse also impacting on our young people because they are looking for anything that can occupy them.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Emertha. Thank you for inviting me.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Lovely to have you here again. Evert, I know it is not your first time on Inspire, but obviously to some people you're very new, and I would really appreciate if you could introduce yourself and tell the viewers who Evert is, what does he do, and so on.
Thank you, Emertha. I'm Reverend Canon Evert Mugara. I'm from Uganda. I'm a priest in the Church of Uganda. That's the Anglican Church. But also I'm a public health specialist. And more to that, I'm currently the Executive Director for Africa Youth Leadership Development and Health based in Kampala, Uganda.
Wow, that's amazing. You're wearing so many hats, Evert.
Welcome.
Yeah, you're wearing so many hats, and I really appreciate that you accepted our invitation on Inspire. I actually was looking to hearing from your observations, maybe from your experiences regarding how young people are dealing with this pandemic in the developing countries. Maybe we could look at East Africa or Uganda because that's where you're based. How are the young people dealing with this pandemic? How is it affecting them differently from the rest of the other people?
Thank you for that question, and I'm glad you're asking me about young people. One, we have to appreciate that the pandemic is impacting on everybody in the population. The adults are equally affected, but like you have stated, the young people are specifically impacted on by this pandemic. And what is my concern majorly is that youth usually get impacted on or affected negatively, but they have nowhere to place their concerns. They suffer quietly alone. And I have seen this, like today as we talk, I can talk of several effects, negative effects that have really affected, impacted on our young people. For instance, to begin with, since the pandemic was announced and declared an epidemic in Uganda, the children have been at home. They don't go to school, and that has a lot to talk about. And the consequences of that are several. First of all, these children are at home, they have no activity, they have no program. It was so abrupt, they never prepared for it. The parents are overwhelmed. And the parents, of course, cannot remain at home. After the lockdown, most of the parents had to go out to look for funds, for money to cater for these children at home and the families, as they have always done. But leaving them alone in their homes without anybody has created a big gap. And that's why in Uganda in particular, we have registered high levels of teenage pregnancies. Adolescent girls are becoming pregnant. Child marriages have increased because these children are engaging in sex at this tender age. And then we have drugs and substance abuse also impacting on our young people because they are looking for anything that can occupy them. So it's a long topic and very deep topic that we can't discuss in this short time. But I can simply say that the impact is great, so great. Then the young people who were like the graduates, immediately after their graduation, all those who had graduated and were looking for employment cannot find employment because even the few companies that were there are scaling down. So you can imagine if you are scaling down and dropping the skilled personnel in your company, you can't think of employing a young person who has just graduated. So it is a challenge. And leave alone the students the loss of time. Students who were supposed to move from one class to another have lost time. We are trying to adopt online education and training and instruction, but even technology here is not so friendly and not accessible in any case, because you can imagine we are over 80% rural based as a country. So if you consider the young people in those areas, how do they access internet? How do they afford smartphones to begin with? And who will guide them? And that is already a challenge, even when we are trying to find a solution to this lost time and trying to have online studies for these young people. So I can say that the young people are hopeless. Most of them are hopeless. They are stressed up, and this might, and I believe it has, led some of them to be depressed. They must be going under depression. But what is amazing, there are not many organizations that are specifically looking into the psychosocial part of their suffering and the impact they are going through. I think this is a time bomb for us as a country, And for us, it is a challenge because we are looking at young people, and we know empowered young people is hope for Africa, is hope for Uganda. But if they are distressed, they are hopeless, they cannot think right, they are lost in their own environment, how do we expect to tap into that potential now and in the future? So I see it as a long-term impact on young people, and the quicker we came in to devise means of how they can be helped out, the better for our country, the better for, for our continent as at large.
So what is the future? What does the future look like for the young people in East Africa or in Uganda in particular, if we are facing those challenges and nothing is put in place to, at least we can't solve all the problems at once, but what is being done so far? What are the few problems that are being tried, are being solved at the moment? I know you are wearing so many hats. You are a public servant, you are a religious leader, and you run this organization for youth. So what is your role as
the consequences of they are dealing with? And then we also are trying to reach out to the young people, educating them on reproductive health issues, our level best to make sure that we reach out to the young people and educate them on how they can guard themselves, how they can avoid these consequences that we are mentioning, like the practices of involving in sex at an early age. And as a church, of course, we have to deal with the psychosocial, the spiritual support. The spiritual support to the young people. How do we use the Bible? How do we use the church structures to ensure that these young people are kept together, are educated and instructed on issues that affect them as they respond to the pandemic? But I wanted to say this. I think, in my own thinking, we are not going to just say sorry to the young people. Ours is to really help them to realize that this is part of their responsibility and they must go around it. They must respond to it as a people, as young people who are living today. And I believe they will find, some of them have already started finding solutions. You find those who were dropped from their jobs, they had to start small entrepreneurships. They are busy, doing small businesses, trying to fend for themselves economically. So to me, so they are not seated and looking for sympathy. They are also struggling. Ours is to facilitate them, to equip them, and to guide them.
Like your level of resilience and how you're transmitting that resilience to the young people, to the youth, to not just feel sorry for themselves, but to stand up and try to do whatever they can do. And I really appreciate that you are empowering them and educating them, and that's a beautiful thing. And I'm sure so many people would learn so much from your discussion today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but again, what are the gaps or challenges that you are facing as an organization, or even at your church community, in terms of supporting those young people? I assume there are quite many. So, what are the gaps? Where are the gaps, or what are the challenges? That you're facing at the moment.
The challenge, the major one, of course, we usually talk of getting the enough funds to reach out to the young people as quickly as possible. But the major challenge as of now is that we cannot like bring these young people together so quickly. So we have to rely on the social media. We have to invite a few of them to, observing the SOPs, the guidelines that we are given, avoiding contraction of this disease. So that is a challenge, of course. Gathering them together and becomes a challenge. But the major one, of course, are resources. We need targeted resources to the young people, to the work with the young people, so that we can quickly reach out to them and do what we can do. The other major challenge, of course, is that, like I mentioned before, we are still a young country trying to get used and, in terms of utilizing the technology that is around us. But even that, when you are thinking of technology, you want to use a phone to reach out to the young people, how many are you going to reach? Very few. The rural-based ones will be left out. That's a big challenge. But how do we go about that? We have to use radios, we have to use TVs as a way of reaching out to them. But the quicker one would have been to be able to like cook on the internet, like WhatsApp. All of you are on WhatsApp and you are talking, or you have Zoom sessions and you are doing it so quickly. But as of now, that is not possible. We have to look for indigenous networks that we can use, the channels, the structures, the church structures, the radios, the TVs, for those who can reach, can access TVs. That's it. But it's still a challenge. Accessibility is a challenge.
Social media platforms, I mean, are not accessible. That's because of lack of internet, if I'm right.
Yeah, those are there, but they are not accessed by many. When you consider that, like Uganda is like 3/4 of the youth are 3/4 of the population, and not all have access to the social media, the internet platforms, and all that.
How do you measure the impact? Maybe this is a hard question. You probably haven't thought of it, but how do you think this is impactful to the youth that you're trying to reach out? How do you measure the impact of your activities in terms of how many people you've helped? How are they changing? What do you have to still do more?
Yes, the impact, I would say the response is good. I like the response from the young people. Those who have been able to engage, they welcome the message, and we have been following up those whom we have trained so far. And for instance, our target is to reach to train 400 young people, and then we hope, and actually 1,000, and we hope to reach to at least 10,000 young people in like 3 months. And so far, the young people we trained have already indicated to us that that is workable. And we are encouraged by that, because they tell us how many people they are reaching out to with a message on drugs and also on issues of reproductive health. And we are happy. So we are encouraged to move on, and we are not going to be stopped by anything, be it financial or what. We want to force our way through, because that is the way to go.
Well done, well done. So, what can the world learn from Uganda in terms of resilience? what made you become so resilient and be able to do what you're doing at the moment, really? What I know people are struggling at the moment, they don't know what to do, what not to, but what kept you so resilient?
Well, a number of factors. One, we are Africans. We have always lived in struggle. So with the other diseases, other epidemics like Ebola, like HIV and AIDS, and therefore when COVID-19 comes on board, it is a new disease. It comes with its surprises, but it will not surprise us beyond our normal because we have tested similar diseases, similar epidemics and pandemics. So I think that's one factor. The other factor is that we are beginning to realize that probably we can do something on our own. We don't have to look out for everything. And this was demonstrated during this pandemic when every country was out to fend for itself and have her population. Uganda and other African countries were left alone. Not even a mask, not even a word. We were looking for masks from China and they were not there. Every country was trying to get anything they could place their hands on to cater for their populations. And that alone helped us to even think of making our own masks, which was never our dream. We made sanitizers, which was never our dream. I think if that gap was not there, would have waited for China to supply, for USA to supply, or UK, but we had to chip in and make our own provisions using local products. And I'm very happy that one has actually impacted us positively to know that we can manage on our own, and that is a positive side.
Well done, well done. What next? Yeah, so I think that's a great thing, and I'm so pleased that you're helping the youth to come out of this pandemic strongly. And I'm glad whatever you're doing is very good, and the resilience is just amazing. So keep it up. And if someone wants to reach out to step in those gaps, how can you be reached? How can they contact your organization or your church community?
Right now, we have an email that we use, but we also you can reach us at ileadinitiative@yahoo.com, but you can also use WhatsApp or Facebook. We are constructing a new website, which will be out soon, and I'll share it with you shortly so that people can reach to us. But we are in Kampala. We are in Kampala, and anybody can get to us. One thing, Emertha, that I wanted to raise that is very important. One of the challenges that we are faced with is the attitude of young people that they cannot get the virus.
Right.
Yes, and I want to highlight it here that young people listening out there, the age is not a determinant for getting the virus or not. It all depends on your immune system. It all depends actually immune system and any other predisposing factors that may be around you as an individual. So we don't want this notion that young people cannot get the virus because they are young. We have to be part and parcel of the whole fighting front, knowing that we are also vulnerable. And if we are not directly vulnerable, we are indirectly vulnerable after we have lost our parents and there is nobody to cater for us, that will be even more impactful than even getting the virus and you recover from it. So we have to guard ourselves and guard our parents and guardians as a way of contributing to the fight against COVID-19.
Yeah, again, it's not even, they might not maybe fall sick, but this won't stop them from carrying the virus and spreading it around. So I think that's why it is very important that we keep the scientific measures put in place, whether young or old, whether you have strong immunity or weak, but you have to really keep safe for yourself and for others. I think that's very important for everybody to hear. Evert, I thank you so much for joining us on Inspire.
You are welcome.
I hope to see you again next time.
Thank you, Emertha, for your time, and I look forward to continued discussions and sharing of information. And thank you, the viewers, for listening in. We look forward to partners wherever they are, and together we can beat and win over this pandemic.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. See you next time.
Bye-bye, and God bless you.
Bless you. Bye.